Day 9. Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart, 1825 to 1903. Foundress of the Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Chapter 4. Day 9. Organization of the work. ANSI and Pareilemonial. Specially favored in its beginnings by the monasteries of the Visitation, the work soon crossed the walls of the cloister and began to spread beyond them. Before the end of June, the Guard of Honor had already been introduced into England by the Reverend Father Weld, Company of Jesus, Master of Novices in London. 2 centuries earlier, it had likewise been a Jesuit priest, the Venerable Father Claude de la Colombière, who first brought to England the devotion to the Sacred Heart. The remarkably rapid growth of the Guard of Honor was undoubtedly a source of deep consolation to the heart of his foundress. Yet such rapid expansion also caused her a certain apprehension. More than ever, she longed to see the direction of the work entrusted to priests and to souls filled with apostolic zeal. On more than one occasion, she attempted to relinquish the responsibility, wishing to lighten the burden that so often seemed too heavy for her frail shoulders. Now that the work had been firmly established and was flourishing, she believed the proper time had come to return to the hidden life of recollection and silence. But since this was not God's will, every attempt she made in that direction came to nothing. She first turned to a Jesuit priest, the Reverend Father Justin Martin, who had known her from the beginning of her religious life and had maintained a spiritual correspondence with her. When the good father visited the monastery around the middle of June 1863, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart explained to him, with complete openness, sincerity, and simplicity, everything concerning the Guard of Honor. From their very first conversation, Father Martin showed himself deeply sympathetic toward the work. The humble religious believed that the long-awaited moment had finally arrived for her to withdraw from active responsibility, entrusting the beloved Guard of Honor entirely to the care and direction of the Jesuit fathers. However, obedience to her superiors prevented her from carrying out this plan. She therefore returned to her mission with renewed courage, seeking only the greater glory of the Sacred Heart. Some time later, other attempts were made in the same direction, but all proved equally unsuccessful. It was evident that God desired to preserve His precious treasure within the monastery of the Visitation at Bourg-en-Bresse. From this blessed center, the rays of the Guard of Honor were destined to spread throughout the entire world. The impulse had been given, and from that moment onward, nothing could halt this expansion. Nevertheless, from the very beginning, the Guard of Honor encountered obstacles and severe trials. As we shall see later, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart would ascend a difficult Calvary, and through sacrifices of every kind, would secure the extraordinary success of the work. This should not surprise us, for has not trial always been the seal of everything that bears the mark of God, both in souls and in His works? Since the redemption, suffering has become the indispensable condition of every true greatness and the source from which every lasting good flows. The first trial, though seemingly a small one, was nonetheless a genuine difficulty. It arose from the growing necessity of printing the first explanatory leaflets of the work. Until then, every element of the Guard of Honor, its prayers, its purpose, and its regulations, had been copied entirely by hand. Despite tireless efforts to reproduce these texts, it soon became impossible to satisfy the increasing number of requests. There was, however, a simple solution: to print an explanatory leaflet describing the purpose and spirit of the work. The first monastery of the Visitation at Annecy strongly recommended this course of action. Moreover, a generous benefactor willingly offered to pay all the printing expenses. Yet, the proposal seemed destined to fail. The recommendation of the mother house was declined for reasons that no one at that time could understand. Perhaps this first refusal may already be seen as the beginning of the misunderstandings and contradictions that the work would later encounter as it continued to grow. Divine Providence, however, was not slow to intervene. During the first half of August, the parish of Paul in the Diocese of Lyon welcomed the new devotion with remarkable fervor. Already 122 names had been entered on the quadrant prepared at the request of the parish priest. At the same time, the monastery of the Visitation employed a devoted young woman who was a native of Paul, as well as 4 lay sisters who also came from that village. It was she who first introduced the Guard of Honor to the pastor of her native parish. What was her disappointment when she saw that the sisters, despite their great goodwill, were unable to provide the formulas of offering to all the members of the Guard of Honor in Paul. Faced with this situation, and without informing the monastery, she personally took the initiative of arranging with a printer in Bourg-en-Bresse for the printing of an explanatory leaflet describing the purpose and spirit of the work. For this undertaking, she used all of her personal savings. However, she was easily consoled by a thought that, thanks to her sacrifice, each associate in Paul would now possess the prayer for their chosen hour of guard. How great was the joy of Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart when she received those first printed leaflets. From that moment onward, she discreetly included a copy of the small printed document in each of her numerous letters. During those first months, it was the only printed material available to make the Guard of Honor known. In her simplicity, the good Mother Mary Lupertin had not thought of obtaining prior authorization from the printer. But as soon as she became aware of this omission, she immediately took the necessary steps to regulate the matter. Thus, before the end of the year 1863, the program leaflet of the Guard of Honor had already received the approval of 3 bishops: His Excellency Bishop de Langalerie of Belley, His Excellency Bishop Magnin of Annecy, and His Excellency Bishop Marquerie of Autun. For the faithful, this represented a serious and sufficient guarantee of the orthodoxy of the work. A more serious trial soon came from some devoted friends who proposed merging the association with other works that were already officially approved or had been recently founded. The Guard of Honor, which had also been introduced into England, was at first in danger of losing its original simplicity by being united with another truly beautiful devotion, the Eucharistic clock, following the suggestion of the Reverend Father Main. Quadrants in English were prepared, inviting souls throughout the entire world to unite themselves spiritually with the holy sacrifice. While sincerely appreciating their zeal and goodwill, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart humbly expressed her concerns to Reverend Father Weld through his sister, Mother Margaret Mary, Superior of the Visitation Monastery of Huesca. She communicated the matter to her brother, who acted with the generosity and humility proper to the saints. Since his only desire was the glory of God, he willingly renounced any modification that could alter the simplicity and integrity of the original Guard of Honor quadrant. Other attempts that might have changed the primitive plan of the work were also made in Paris and Italy, but without success. Around that same time, another publication attracted attention, a leaflet entitled Escort of Honor. It was nothing more than the original program leaflet reproduced under a different title. Thousands of copies had been printed, and because it was being distributed with great enthusiasm, it eventually reached Bourg-en-Bresse, where Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart was greatly surprised to see it. After long and patient investigation, she discovered that the publishers were the Reverend Premonstratensian Fathers of the Abbey of Saint Michael of Frijolet, belonging to the Archdiocese of Aix. Once informed of their mistake, those fathers hastened to correct it and began to preach and recommend the Guard of Honor everywhere. As a result of their repeated requests, the first historical account of the work was published. Nevertheless, the Guard of Honor came very close to being merged with the Association of Our Lady of the Sacred Heart, organized by the Reverend Missionary Fathers of Issoudun. Because of this possibility, numerous discussions took place between the Superior, Father Chevalier, and Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart. The merger was almost accomplished when His Excellency Bishop de Langallery, consulted at the last moment, firmly opposed it. In order to prevent such an attempt from being made again, he issued a decree on March 9, 1864, canonically establishing in the chapel of the Visitation at Bourg-en-Bresse the Confraternity of the Guard of Honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The bishop understood that if the work were transferred to Issoudun, it would disappear from his diocese. Therefore, to preserve it, he resolved to canonically establish it in the very chapel where it had been born. This decision would soon bring forth abundant blessings. Monsignor Joseph Bouvieri, Apostolic Internuncio in Lucerne, learned about the Guard of Honor through Mother Mary Augustine Faumier, then Superior of the Visitation Monastery in Ornon, in the Archdiocese of Besançon. After discovering the work, he immediately enrolled in it and even offered to seek from Rome the concession of general indulgences. However, to request such favors, it was necessary that the work possess canonical foundations, which was precisely what Bishop de Langallery had just established. Following his advice, Sister Mary of the Sacred Heart addressed a petition to the Holy Father. She enclosed the program of the work, a copy of the episcopal decree by which the Confraternity of the Guard of Honor was canonically established in the Chapel of the Visitation in 2 colored quadrants. Everything was sent to Lucerne, and the answer was not long delayed. On June 30th, 1864, Monsignor Bouvier informed the Venerable Foundress that His Holiness, Pope Pius IX, had graciously received her request and had granted to the members of the Guard of Honor the same indulgences already enjoyed by Apostolic Indult by the Confraternity of the Sacred Heart established in Rome. The result obtained had surpassed all expectations. God be blessed.